In my search for a protagonist in stories, which Myers Briggs would label as the INTP, I kept running into the same movies: The Matrix, Good Will Hunting, and A Beautiful Mind. It became frustrating not being able to find other INTP stories. Any INTP protagonist I ran into usually was about them being a genius. Any INTP female protagonist was even harder to find, with Alice in Wonderland, A Wrinkle in Time, and Daria being the main ones. Now, A Wrinkle in Time is over 50 years old, and Alice in Wonderland is over 150 years old. You may think I'm missing out on the other countless INTP representation in our media, but the key word you have to focus on is protagonist, the hero, the MC, the main character. Now, if I'm wrong about not finding good INTP stories, especially female protagonists, I would love to see your suggestions in the comments section. It bothered me that I couldn't find many INTP stories until I realized that A, INTPs only account for 3% of the population, and B, they're very private people. INTPs are kind of hard to find if you don't already know them. Yet INTJs, ENTJs, and INFJs are even less in population, but they have no problem inspiring writers to place them as a protagonist. Why do I even care? I'm a writer and an INTP, and even I'm not inspired to write INTP protagonists. Because of their private nature and their spark taking place in their minds, it can be kind of hard to tell their story without it being too abstract, boring, or confusing. The INTP trope is very easy to spot. It's your weirdos, your nerdy characters, or the awkward smartass. For any character to become dynamic, you want to put them in a situation where it's difficult for them to thrive. Taking a character and putting them in a place where they aren't comfortable makes for a good story. Since INTPs mostly thrive in their introverted thinking, a story surrounding their strength can work, as long as the character is developing in some way. It's interesting that in The Matrix, Neo only thrives when he is solving the problem of the Matrix. Outside of that, he's miserable and alone. Stories like The Matrix explore the INTP through an abstract world centering around an obsession they want answers to, where we can truly see them at work. Without the fantasy world, it's kind of hard to understand what they're fooling around with in their mind. The Matrix is an example on how to create a world where the INTP's thinking makes sense. But what is more entertaining is getting them in a romantic situation, when the nerd gets the girl. That's something you don't often see in our entertainment, other than anime, but that's for a different discussion. It would be pretty simple to create a dynamic INTP character just by making them the protagonist, since it's not something we often see. Using Myers Briggs, we can make our nerdy, invisible character more seen and interesting. Keep in mind that the bookworm nerd is just a stereotype of the INTP, or the logician. I standing for introvert, N for intuition, T for thinking, P for perceiving. These are the men and women who have an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. Depending on the individual, it can be knowledge for about anything. All they really want is the truth. Taking a look at the INTP's strengths and weaknesses, this will help us see what kind of person we're dealing with. We're going to use 16personalities.com to make this nerd come alive. Their strengths are analytical, original, open-minded, curious, and objective. Weaknesses are disconnected, insensitive, dissatisfied, impatient, and perfectionistic. Focusing on one main strength and one main weakness for your character arc will keep your story from being all over the place. It's best to use the other strengths and weaknesses in the story when they become relevant. For example, we'll choose original for the strength and disconnected as a weakness. In the case of the INTP, their imagination gives them the ability to be original in their thinking, looking at things in ways that most people miss or never really consider. Yet because of how different they think, they can become disconnected from the world around them, making it difficult for them to really connect with other people who can't go deep with them. So when someone's coming to our protagonist for help, they can be really good at finding the best course of action, using logic to deal with a situation, leaving the least amount of damage. Because of this, people feel drawn to them, developing a connection, seeing them as someone who truly cares and sees them. But for the INTP, it could be nothing more than helping someone find the correct way of doing something, and nothing more. INTPs may not realize that what they say holds a lot of weight to others. They can at times not see how someone they don't consider a friend truly cares for them. Their ability to disconnect from others could be a way they cope with disappointments from past relationships. Unless someone can deep dive into the place where the INTP loves to be, they may not connect with them. Throwing someone like this into a love story will for sure create a rounded character. So in this story example, the INTP meets someone new. They share a common interest the INTP is currently obsessed over, and this new person is more of an expert on the topic than they are. Because of this, the INTP forms a new connection. They're so used to dismissing their own feelings easily that they can't quite understand what they're feeling about this new person. Everyone around them can see that something is different because they're so used to being alone. They don't talk it out with anyone. Instead, they analyze why they want to be around this person and the inspiration they get when they're being challenged by them. Why can't they get this person out of their mind? Until one day, it becomes clear they are in love, and it makes them sick to their stomach. They realize their controlled, calculated methods of self-protection was somehow bypassed, and yet they struggle with the fact that it feels good also. They have to decide whether to tell that person how they feel, where they risk rejection and disappointment, or create new barriers that will help them avoid their feelings altogether, guaranteeing them no pain. What is a life if you refuse to live? Pleasure and pain are unavoidable if you want something. And without pain, we can't truly appreciate the pleasures we already have or could have. Why are we, everyone, so afraid of pain? Maybe this is the revelation the INTP has to have in order to make a move. I can accept failure. Everyone fails at something, but I can't accept not trying. Whether that be in love, career, or any dream. These aren't things only INTP struggles with, but the wisdom they naturally carry at times can hold them back from a chance of having a great reward. In this case, fear is masquerading as wisdom. This is something everyone has to overcome, taking a chance on the unknown. The female's brain in My Youth Romance As Wrong As I Expected are two good romances about INTP protagonists. One's about a woman who makes it her mission to never fall in love again, by using her understanding of brain chemistry to never bond with a man and become weak. And in the other one, it follows a young man who experienced so much humiliation in the past from love, he learns to never connect with anyone in order to protect himself from rejection. INTP characters may be a little difficult to write because we aren't used to seeing them in protagonist roles, but telling a story we don't get to see too often introduces us to new worlds and redefines who is worthy of being a main character.